Last season, the Dallas Stars power play was a roller coaster. And in the playoffs, when it was great, but it sputtered when it mattered the most. A feeling Stars fans know all too well over the last 3 seasons. But what if a power play that terrorized the league for the last 8 years can be reborn in Dallas? That's what new head coach Glen Gulutzan aims to do.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer at 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What will Glen Gulutzan do with the Dallas Stars power play this season? There's no doubt that the Stars have had a great power play over the last 3 years under head coach Pete DeBoer. They finished within the top 10 of the league in each of the last 3 seasons, but it felt like they always kept you wanting more, especially in the big moments, especially in the postseason. And that was a trend we documented a little bit with Pete DeBoer. It seemed as the rounds and the playoff games continued to increase, the Stars power play seemed to be figured out, especially Edmonton. The Oilers penalty kill seemed to had the Dallas Stars power play all figured out, and they really struggled. But he was the architect of one of the best power plays in the league, Edmonton, over the last 8 years. And of course, they had Leon Draisaitl and they had Connor McDavid. But as I've said before Gully had gotten to Edmonton, they were one of the worst power plays in the entire league, and they ascended to new heights. And there's a couple of ways he did that. I'm going to explain some of that to you today. I'm going to let Glen Gulutzan explain some of that as well. I have a little clip that I want to show you. I believe I showed it earlier in the summer, but it talks about road hockey. He uses the term road hockey on the power play, and it's all about movement. And he learned some of that from his failures in Dallas's first go-around. And I'll play it to that clip in a bit. But why I wanted to have this discussion today is because can the Stars power play reach new heights? Can they get to the point where they are successful in the biggest moments? And the power play was excellent. If you look at the overall numbers, even last postseason, although it failed to score some big time goals, but even last year during the postseason run, the Stars actually had the best power play percentage out of all the teams remaining. They still have one of the top 5. The Stars were at 32% in the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2024, but we all know they scored 3 of their, I think, 5 power play goals in that Western Conference Finals in Game 1 to take Game 1, the only win they had in the Western Conference Final, and after that, it was downhill from there. But here is a clip from Glen Gulutzan himself explaining how he went about his business, how they approach the power play, and how this could potentially benefit the Stars, who, of course, have a good power play. But can they take it another notch? Can they take it another level, especially with the new addition of Mikko Rantanen?
They have guidelines. Our meetings could really be, honestly, 2 minutes now instead of 8 minutes every game. It's just they only need to do a few things, what type of kill it is, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes we point out some weaknesses or some patterns. But other than that, it's structured road hockey, because what we think when I started there and I started on the power play is that, we have the most dynamic player in the world. We need him in motion. What happens is we want to create motion on our power play, because motion, then you're instinctual. When you're standing still threading needles, I don't know how instinctual you are, but when you're in motion and playing and you're dynamic, I think that creates instinctual hockey. And then there's certain other parameters that we look for that create road hockey conditions. So that movement and that instinctual And then, obviously shooting and breaking down and people in certain areas creates some road hockey conditions, because we know what kills are going to do when we do certain things. So we want to create as much instinct as we can. A lot of that comes from shooting the puck. It comes from retrievals. It comes from just obviously motion, and all that creates some unpredictability. We move pieces around to create different looks, because each guy has a different skill set and can do some things better than others when we move the top three guys around. So at the end of the day, that's kind of the light structure of the power play. But where it all came from is I almost should send an apology note to Brendan Morrow and Jamie Benn in Dallas, because I tried to chess piece that power play in Dallas when I was first coaching, and it didn't work. And so that term road hockey was a term that kind of evolved and came to me. We used to play it all the time in Hudson Bay. That's all we talked about is road hockey when we grew up. And I tried to be a little bit too much of a chess master when I first started in the league. And you know what, you live and you learn and you grow. That's part of being a coach. So that road hockey term kind of came from some of my failures.
Sorry for the long clip there, but I wanted to play it in its entirety. And I really love what goalie mentioned about the motion and some of just the small details. I think us as fans can forget about or don't put enough emphasis on, like winning retrieval battles, like those 50-50 pucks. You have an extra man out there, go win the battle. And that's something Mikko Rantanen, I just glazed him and I drooled over his ability, especially along the wall, which makes him such a weapon on the power play. The way he can accept pucks along the wall on hard rims. He uses that big body and he's physical, and he is just so skilled that he can pick up pucks and he can move it off to the right player. He's the facilitator, and I'm curious to see how Gulutzan will use him on the power play. And a bit later on, we're going to talk about some of the two units, talk about maybe some changes I could see here or there, or where I see certain players fitting on the special teams units upcoming. But for now, we're going to talk about sort of the approach to the power play. He also, there was a follow-up question in that Glass and Out podcast about how would you coach a Pee-wee team on the power play. And I think sometimes this can be even applied to the NHL. And he mentioned that off the rush, shoot the puck, be more intentful with your shooting. At 5-on-5, when you have a 2-on-1, you have a 3-on-2, like you're looking to go to the net, right? Why in a 5-on-4 or with a power play, if it's a 2-on-1 or 3-on-2, would you not go to the net? Because you see sometimes you pull up and you kind of curl back. This is more so for youth hockey, but even in the NHL to some degree, I think you see that sometimes, or guy will carry it down the wing and he kind of peels back and they set up the power play. Whereas he's saying, why we wouldn't pass it up at 5-on-5, so don't pass it up at 5-on-4. And I like that mentality of getting pucks on net, using the motion. And I think this is where Robo, maybe not even much as Rantanen, because I think Rantanen is more of a playmaker on the power play than he is maybe even a shoot first kind of guy. Of course, he can score the pill. We know that. But Robo's one of those players. He's so dynamic. He can shoot and score from anywhere. He could be sort of that rover type. And of course, he doesn't skate like McDavid, but he could be that rover that moves around constantly. And I think that's going to help him, because the team or the opponent is going to get lost because maybe they're focused on Rantanen, who has a puck. Robo can kind of move around, be shifty, be able to kind of get his shot off, score from anywhere. And the Stars just need a good net front presence and go from there. But he speaks on using the personnel too. Everybody has a different skill set. So how's that going to play with Miro and Harley? I've even mentioned this summer, maybe we see 4 and 55 together on the power play, because Harley is a guy that's more shoot first. Miro's a facilitator. Maybe they can work something there where they're almost more lethal together than they are separate. And of course, Rantanen, we saw him a lot last season. And let's just talk about the power play as a whole from the last couple of years under the board. It's kind of set in stone. Pre-Rantanen, you had Miro, you had Robo on the right flank, you had maybe Rope on the left flank, or maybe he was net front, and you had Ben. It was kind of stagnant, right? And he mentioned, like, it's kind of thread the needle. How can you be a weapon if you're trying to thread the needle all the time. And I think that's where we're going to see the Dallas Stars power play really grow. And it's going to look a lot, or at least appear a bit different than what we've been accustomed to knowing the last few years. I think that's something it's going to kind of jump off the page to us in game one here in the next couple of months. Stars power play going to have a different approach, different attack, different system. I think it's going to be good. And hopefully, as Glen Gulutzan says, they're going to use everybody's skill set to make the power play as lethal as possible. Here are some numbers I did want to throw at you as well, just because the Stars power play wasn't awful. That's why I mentioned here on the rundown. Can they reach new heights? Over the last 3 seasons under Bohr, this is the regular season, Stars had the 7th best power play percentage, 23.7%. Not bad at all. It's 246 games worth of power play. And the team, Mammoth are ahead of them, so you could safely say Dallas is within the top 6. Power play percentage over the last 10 years, the last decade, Oilers have the best, 24%. Dallas is actually 6th. The Oilers are 24%. So that's what Gulutzan has been able to do with Edmonton. And it's going to be a different challenge, too. You don't have world-class players. Draisaitl has scored the most power play goals over the last 5 to 10 years as well in the NHL. He's going to have different options. And who's going to be that guy? Really, really looking forward to that. And speaking of those options, let's talk about some of the units and maybe where I would differ even with a platform like Puckpedia, where they have some of the units up. I want to show you them and kind of talk through some things that popped in my mind when looking at these 2 specific units on the Man Advantage. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401ks, it's properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Do you know how much you're paying for subscriptions? Sometimes you forget you have accounts linked, subscriptions linked to your account, and they're taking money out of your account every month. Maybe you don't know. That's where Monarch Money can come in, and they can save you money. You can cancel some of the ones you're not using, or maybe you thought you were, but maybe you're not getting your money's worth. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Special teams units are always a fun discussion, and I want to sort of just go over a rough idea of what we could see out of Power Play 1, Power Play 2, the 2 units, and where there could potentially be some overlapping with certain players. Now, on Puckpedia, which is a great platform, of course, you can go to Puckpedia, you can look at the cap space and all that good stuff. It also shows you a depth chart with line combinations, defensive pairings. They also show power play units and penalty kill units. So you look at Power Play 1, they have Roope your center, you got Rantanen and Robertson on the flanks, Johnston is the extra forward, and then Miro. I'm still curious to see who's going to be maybe the defenseman on the first unit. In the case, let's just say it's Miro. All things considered, the Stars are going to be in decent hands. I would like to see Harley, though, as much as possible, just because when he kind of jumped in, I know the power play started to get going in the few weeks leading up to Miro getting hurt, but it went to a different level when Harley was in there. But let's just say Heiskanen D, and maybe instead of Johnston here, this is where I could see Johnston or even Hintz. Maybe they move Hintz down to Power Play 2, and Jamie moves up to that first unit. And this is, and again, we saw this last season, and it irritated me. I brought it up all the time, how they would pass it to Jamie on entries. Frustrated the ever-living heck out of me. I went on so many rants because Jamie's at the point of his career. We know it now, especially. He doesn't need to be getting the puck on entries. because he doesn't have the foot speed. He doesn't have the ability to play well enough along the walls, in my opinion, to make the short little neat passes. When you make those entries, you got to kind of kick it back to the defenseman or you're chipping it down the wall. That's where you have Rantanen for, or you have a Johnston that can carry the puck in with speed. But the reason I bring Ben up, because he can be that net front presence. Rantanen, Robo, those are guys that are interchangeable, can move around. Miro, the facilitator. Rantanen, Robo, Johnston, those are your shooters. Those are the guys who are trying to get on net. But I could see Jamie maybe being put up on that power play. He wins faceoffs too. That's number one. He gives you a guy that can win draws. Jamie can still do that at this stage. He can win faceoffs. Maybe he's just a guy that goes out there, wins a draw, and gets off. I could see that as well. And Ben gives you that net front presence. I don't care how old Ben is. If he plays for the next 3 years, there's no way he should have one power play goal in a regular season like he did last year. I'm sorry. There's no way that should happen. Ben can be around the net. He should have at least five. He's too good of a player. Even in a limited role on the power play, he should be able to score more than one goal in a regular season. He can play till he's 40. I'm sorry. He's good enough to jam pucks home. So I'm curious to see if Gulutzan does something like that. And then PP2 here, they have Duchesne, Sagan, Ben, Bork, Harley as your power play two. Bork, let's face it, he's going to get a crack at it. He's going to get a crack, I think, early on to play on the power play. We didn't get to see him much at all last year, but now that the Stars are not as deep as they were, let's just say last couple seasons, he's going to get a crack on that power play. So they have him with Ben, Duchesne, Sagan, Bork. That's why I think you put Ben up there. Maybe he replaces Johnson or Hintz. Either way, they can come down. And then it gives Dutchie a guy. Dutchie's usually the guy that kind of drives the play on entries. And this could all change too, just with the new system, how Gulutzan's going to go about it. But there's not a lot of speed on that power play too. That's why I think you may have to kick back a Johnston or Hintz, a guy that can carry in with speed. And Sagan's a guy at this point, he's going to be kind of a net front. It seems like that's kind of where his role is. And then Bork maybe on one of the flanks. And we all know Harley is a guy that can be a little bit of a roamer and get pucks on net as well. That's why I think you're going to have to kick somebody back from this power play unit one, as it shows on Puckpedia. You're just going to need some more foot speed on that second power play, in my opinion. Someone that can carry the puck in with control outside of Duchesne, of course. And Harley can be that guy too. Let's not forget about that. Who cares who's carrying it in, as long as they're doing it with speed, and they can carry in with possession and get set up. So it's going to be fascinating to see what kind of units. I think Ben can just be a net front guy that can just bludgeon pucks home. He should score more than one power play goal this season. I'll put $5 on that. That'll be one of my hot takes for this season. That just simply should not happen. A player that could get an opportunity, depending, it could be Sam Steele. I'd be fascinated to see. He's a guy like goalie talks about retrievals. I think he'd be great in that. Maybe he doesn't have the overall offensive skill you would love for a power play, but let's just say somebody's not going well, whether that's Bork, whether it's even Ben, if they don't like what they're getting out of Jamie, maybe Steele gets a crack at it to get some power play time as well. Also, the Stars could maybe run like 1.5 units where, you see Harley or Heiskanen will come off and they replace the other. Maybe it's one of these things where they switch off, like Harley stays out, Miro stays out a full 2 minutes, Harley or Miro joins them as sort of the second defenseman, and then you could keep Rantanen out there, you could keep Robo, and then you could throw whoever else, whether that's a Johnston out there, you could throw a Hintz, and kind of have a two defenseman set, a little bit more old school. I would be really intrigued about that, because let's just face it, like, you're trying to get your best players out there. I think Miro and Harley, you put Miro, Harley, Rantanen, Robo, and then a Hintz, Johnston, even a Duchesne somewhere in there. Like, that's a good unit. It's a great unit. At least on paper. Of course, you got to work with the chemistry and all that good stuff, but that looks like a good unit. put your best 5 out there if you can. And maybe your best 5 is, Harley and Miro together off the hop. So, but those are some discussions or some issues I may have had with the Puckpedia combinations, just because I think there's going to have to be a bit more overlapping than we've seen in maybe some years past. And I think goalie's going to be a coach, not going to be afraid to move some things around and get some different combinations going. And it's just going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to the first month of the year, just because, it's been nice. I kind of mentioned this a few weeks ago. We kind of knew what to expect over the last couple of years with DeBoer and the Stars. There's some unknowns now there. There's a little anxiety too about these first 20 games don't go well. It could be an interesting season. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to see what Gulutzan can muster up on that side of special teams. USA, by the way, continuing their great success in hockey in 2025. I'll tell you a bit more about that as Team USA wins the Hlinka Gretzsky Cup this week. We'll do that in just a moment. USA Hockey continues to dominate on the global stage in 2025. Just yesterday, Team USA wins the Hlinka Gretzsky Cup for the first time in 22 years. Since 2003, USA Hockey wins the Hlinka Gretzsky Cup over Team Sweden by a final score of 5-3. And they really won all the major tournaments in 2025 outside of the four nations face-off, where Team Canada, of course, won in overtime over USA. But Team USA with the Hlinka Gretzsky Cup this year, back-to-back World Junior champions and World champions, which concluded just towards the end of the NHL regular season and playoffs. So Team USA with a great run here in 2025, which is great to see. And they're continuing to knock on the door, and it really all sets the stage for 2026 and the Olympics, which is going to be a lot of fun. And the Stars are going to have plenty of representatives. I mean, I think you can say they're going to have 6 or 7 guys 100% on rosters. You got the Finns, of course. We know Rantanen, all healthy, of course. You got Rantanen, you got Hintz, you got Miro, and you got Lindell. So that's 4 right there. I think it's safe to say Otter, that's 5. Robo is going to have a shot, so maybe 6. I think it's safe to say Harley, too, is going to be on Team Canada. He's 7. Johnston probably on the outside looking in, but that could potentially be 8. And outside of those guys, you have to look at Alain Bischel for Switzerland. Switzerland qualified for the Olympics in 2026. They're in the same group as Canada, Czechia, and France. Radek Faksa for Czechia. He could be a potential pick for Czechia. It'll be fun to see Pasternak as well, kind of in that group. You got Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, Italy. That'll be a fun one. Niels Lundqvist is Swedish. I think he's only Swede on Dallas. I don't know what their depth chart looks like, but they usually have a really good back end. I don't know if you're going to be seeing Niels here upcoming in the 2026 Olympics. It would be great if Robo can make Team USA. But I think the Stars, I think they have a potential to even have 10 guys in there. If you go Hintz, Robo, Rantanen, Johnston, Faksa, Otter, Lindell, Heiskanen, Harley, Bischel. A potential for 10 guys, which will be a lot of fun. I love Olympic hockey. I say it all the time, and it's great to see some best on best upcoming in 2026. It'll be right in the middle of the NHL regular season, but they're competing once again. So looking forward to that. And congrats to USA Hockey continuing some success here in 2025. And it's just a credit to just the the USA, I think, program in general up there in Plymouth, Michigan. They're doing a great job getting these kids in, and they're obviously finding a lot of success. And USA, I feel like, is creeping closer and closer to sort of those Canada levels that you saw. You saw years and years ago the domination, but this is all it all really is going to be proven, I feel like, at the Olympics in 2026. It's nice to win all this stuff, but that's when the big boys are going at it, and we'll see what Team USA can muster up there in Italy. But I wanted to end with that, give a congratulations, a feel-good note for you to take home and to kick off your week here on a Monday, and that's going to wrap things up for us. On Locked On Stars, still at about 3 episodes a week. September rolls around here. Before you know it, we're going to start back every day, training camp, and we got preseason games. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to ramp up rather quickly. And speaking of that, be sure to check out Locked On NHL as well. I did an episode with a couple of guys there, and they're doing previews for all 32 teams for this upcoming season. Which was a lot of fun. I had a great time with those guys. You can tune into that episode and tune into any other teams you're interested about. So keep an eye out on Locked On NHL as well, covering all the 32 teams here in the National Hockey League. But that's going to do it. Please be sure to comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Follow me, Joy the Jet 19. Follow Locked On Stars on Twitter as well. I post things and repost stuff throughout the offseason as well there. But have a great rest of your day. Kick off the week on a high note on this Monday, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long, Stars fans.